r/NoSleep. Posted by Reddit user G_A93. I played a twisted game with the devil and came out on top. Part 1. We all make mistakes in this world. Some of us get caught with their hands in the cookie jar. Some end up getting physical with their siblings. Everyone on this planet makes mistakes. It's how you learn from them that will separate the men from the boys. And my mistake? I was caught dumping illegal items into a river. Yeah. Took them 13 years to find me and make the connection. But they did. I was guilty. There's an odd saying amongst criminals. It's the police's job to catch the bad guys. And it's the bad guy's job not to get caught. I love that saying. Makes the world feel even, Like I can go ahead and try and get away with the crime, but if I get caught, oh well. I had the opportunity. Got no one to blame but myself. When they overtook me in my home, I was cooking. The meat was almost ready. Smoky spices filling the kitchen. I'd made roast veggies and jasmine rice to go along with my meat. Once the officers knocked down my door and took hold of me, I noticed that these were not local government official officers. No, they were dressed in black tactical gear, but with no identification. The men behind the masks had eyes blacker than charcoal. I was picked up and hauled off to a facility to which I still have no knowledge to where it is. And once in the interrogation room, I smelled a peculiar scent fill the air, almost like a brimstone-like smell. And my focus was cut short when the interrogation room door swung open. I hadn't realized how dark the room actually was until I caught sight of the blinding light from the lobby. A tall, dark silhouette stood in the doorway. And the second I blinked my eyes, the door was shut, and what once was a silhouette in the doorway was now behind me, hand on my shoulder. "Michael Provant, you've been ducking and hiding us a long time," the voice rang out to me. That deep, haunting voice nearly made me jump from my chair, but I stayed quiet. A yellow file folder was plopped in front of me on the table. "Do you know what that is?" the thing asked. "Listen, I want my lawyer, Eric Goldberg. He'll sort all the..."
"Lawyer?"
The voice laughed, becoming less and less human.
"Son, there is nothing a lawyer could provide to help you down here."
The creature revealed itself to me, walking around the table and having a seat in front of me. It looked into my soul. It was a grotesque-looking creature, head of an ox, but with human-like mouth, deep red eyes, human-like hands with nails as long and sharp as Freddy Krueger's. I took one look into his eyes and immediately began to cry. "Do you know what this is?" the creature repeated, his voice returning to its deceptive human voice as he pointed to the yellow file. I sheepishly shook my head no, tears still streaming down my face. "That is your guilt, Michael. All the crimes you've committed in the name of your selfish pleasures." I'm sorry, please, just let me go," I screamed. The creature sucked its teeth. "Michael, it's too late for apologies. You're here now. You are guilty without the need of a jury, for I am judge, jury, and executioner here." I could only cry in fear and agony as images of what this thing was planning to do with me raced through my head. "Now, Michael, you may be stuck here with me for now, but maybe I have a proposition for you." "Anything, please, I'll do anything," I blurted out. The creature smiled, its enormous teeth crusted over in what looked like dry blood and pus. Very well, Michael. Now, the rules to this are simple. When you leave here, you will be awoken in the middle of a structure on the base floor. All I need from you is to make it to the main floor. Floor number 5. Through each floor, you'll have more rules to follow. You'll find them taped to the elevator door. And that's it. Simple. Oh yes, there is one catch. You are one of 3 other friends working to get out of their sticky situation as well. Be careful not to let them get there first. If they do, you'll be returning back to me. Got it? I looked at this thing, hoping I took some bad acid and I was just in a holding tank downtown. I reluctantly nodded my head. The creature gave me another large smile, and with lightning speed, grabbed my head and forced my eyes to meet his, as his eyes let out a bright light that made me faint. When I awoke, I was out of the cuffs and sitting on a bench in the middle of what looked like a busy hospital. I nearly forgot about the whole interaction before seeing a security guard by the elevator. His eyes were coal black. I made up my mind that if this was the only way to see my freedom, then I'd better get to work. I nearly ran off the bench towards the elevator, running smack into a nurse carrying her lunch. I apologized as she tried to get up. Her name was Claire. I didn't want to seem like a junkie or someone who would be a problem to the staff. Last thing I needed was to be kicked out of here and sent back to that thing. Once I arrived in front of the elevator, the security guard pressed the button, his dark eyes staring through me. It was almost as if no one else saw him or this elevator. Groups of people passing us by, not even giving a glance. The doors opened. As I stepped through, I felt a noticeable change in the air. My breath is clearly visible. As I looked to close the elevator door, I noticed there was a key inserted above the second floor button. I wasn't sure what that meant, but I was already in too deep to back out. I pressed the second floor button and watched the door shut. The elevator began to descend, and I felt my stomach sink. I couldn't understand what it meant when I felt the elevator descend. Had I been fooled? Had I been killed and this was me living in some metaphorical hell? I really wasn't sure until the doors opened to the quote-unquote second floor. When they did, I saw an open area like the one of the hospital base floor. This area, however, was abandoned, littered with medical equipment all over the floor. Blood splattered across the reception desk. I caught some AK-47s and handguns strewn about. Whoever was holding them were long gone now. My blood ran cold, heart rate spiking. I couldn't decide whether to leave the elevator or crawl into a ball and sob my eyes out. My time for self-loathing was cut short by an arm reaching through and pulling me out. It was one of the security goons, dressed in their best whites, eyes dead black as the elevator doors closed, revealing a list of rules to follow. The list read, "Second floor. There is a child in one of the offices that need guidance back to the elevator. Find her and bring her back. If you hear a little boy crying, never go to the area you hear the tears at. Run in the opposite direction and hide. Continue for the little girl after it stops. If you come across a surgeon with bloody gloves, offer him your shirt to clean up. If he accepts, give him your shirt and put it back on when he's done. Do not skip putting it back on. If he refuses, apologize 3 times and never look him in the eyes while you walk away. Finally, if you find yourself getting overwhelmingly tired, pick up the pace and find the girl. If you take too long, the elevator will disappear and you'll become one with the second floor forever." I don't know what was worse, eternal hell with that beast or this bullshit right here. In any case, I began my search for this little girl. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't creeped out by the scenery. There was so much blood that all that filled my nose was a metallic smell. Soon I began to taste it. I went about room by room. Oh God, there must have been a dozen corridors, all containing about 10 rooms each. I kept popping open each room. Most of them were empty, besides a couple of patient beds and some general tools. I had been down about 5 corridors when I popped open a door, and to my horror, a large man in a white coat covered in blood was standing there. His face was masked, and I couldn't make out the whites of his eyes. I gasped in horror. As I backed away from the door, I fell on my ass. The man was just standing there. Finally, I realized all the blood on his gloves. I quickly removed my shirt and offered it to him to clean off. He approved by taking the shirt and wiping down all the blood from his face, gloves, and arms. He returned my shirt. I looked with a grimace as the blood-soaked shirt dangled in front of my face, smelling of death. I noticed he seemed impatient. I rushed to throw the shirt back on. As my head went through the hole, the surgeon had disappeared. Not a sound made. He just vanished. I nearly threw up wearing the moist shirt covered in blood, but I continued to make a trek through the facilities. Door upon door flung open, with little to no sign of the little girl. I began to feel uneasy, as if I'd never find her, until I stumbled upon a door with a small bloody handprint coating the inside of the glass window. I nervously gripped the handle of the door, slowly turning it before taking a moment to take a breath. With all my might, I flung the door open. I was greeted by a little girl crying, back to the door. "Little girl, I'm here to help you," I squeaked out. She stopped crying and turned to face me. She had a smile carved from ear to ear, terribly bruised and cut all over, blood staining her dress. Where her eyes should have been, there sat deep, empty sockets. I was taken aback by her appearance, but before I could react, I heard a horrible, sobbing sound, childlike in pitch, but with a hint of evil in it. At first, I thought it was her, returning to her crying, but when I looked at her, her mouth was sealed. She was noticeably shaken, though. All of a sudden, it hit me. I grabbed the little girl and threw her over my shoulder, and began running down the hall back to the main hub. The crying wouldn't get any further. In fact, it was gaining on us. At this point, I could hear thumping of footsteps behind us. I made a call and dived into one of the little rooms. Luckily, there was a desk inside. I took the little monstrosity with me under the desk and sat idle as the crying was coming closer to the room we were in. I could hear the crying right outside the door, howling louder and louder. All I could think was what horrors awaited me once that door opened. But then, as soon as it came, it went, fading like an echo in the night. I nearly forgot about the little girl tucked underneath me. I rose up from beneath the rotted desk, allowing her to rise up as well. She looked at me, with that smile carved across her face. I couldn't help but feel terrible. Here I was judging her about how she looks, and never considered the hell she had been through to end up that way. She never spoke. I never heard her other than the crying earlier. I started towards the door to make sure it was safe when I crashed onto the floor. A wave of exhaustion overtook me. It felt as if a boulder had been strapped onto my back. I barely made it to the door. As I opened it, I ran back for the girl. With exhaustion gripping my soul, I began running to the elevators. I could feel myself fading to sleep. At the same time, the wailing crying of the little boy continued. Only this time, the running was more rapid, gaining faster than before. I knew I had no time to hide, for if I did, I could be trapped here forever. I ran with everything in my power towards the elevator. The crying was now beginning to sound like high-pitched screams, at one point, sounding right behind us. I saw the elevator. The boy or creature was literally on her ass. I don't know how I kept running. My legs were on fire. My body was done. As I neared the elevator, I threw the little girl inside and made a leap for the doors. I heard the doors close as I allowed my eyes to shut.